Hello, everyone. How are you all doing? I believe I'm live, but if you can just let me know whether you can hear me in the chat, say hello, where you're calling in from. Yeah, just want to make sure that I'm not talking to myself. All right, let's see. Who do we have here? Can you all hear me? All right, while you're typing, let me just get things ready. I think I'm live. All right. Hello, Eve. Thank you. All right. So I'm live. Hello, Oleg. All right. Awesome. Awesome. Confirmed. All right. So I usually like to get started by just saying hello. Hello. So if you can just say hello in the chat, just where you're calling in from. It's really nice for us PMs to know where we are all calling in from. So I am based in Toronto. It is just past noon here, 12:17 p.m. All right, where are you calling in from? Eve, Oleg, Diana, Danielle, LinkedIn user, hello from the GTA. All right, we're neighbors. Hello, hello, hello. Let me know where you're calling in from. City, country. Hello from Texas. Hello, Nason. I hope, did I say that correctly? Nason from Texas. I used to live in Texas. I lived in Lubbock, Texas. I went to Texas Tech University. I lived in Dallas, Texas, and I lived in Houston, Texas. Hello, Faisal from Alberta. Hello, Diana from Alabama. Hello, LinkedIn user from Florida. I have family in Florida, in Orlando. LinkedIn user, DC area. Omar from Tunis. Nice. Must be in the evening over there. Nahom from New Jersey. Oleg from NC. NC is North Carolina, I think. Los Angeles. Jennifer from San Antonio, Texas. San Antonio, beautiful, beautiful city. One of my best friends is from San Antonio. Kristen from North New Jersey. All right. Jennifer from Dallas. Amazing. All right. So we have people from all over. Yeah, go Red Raiders. Thank you. Reckon. All right, so let's get this show. Oh, from London, UK. Eve, nice. We also have a London, Ontario. I don't know if many people know this. There's a London, Ontario, which is like 2 hours from here. So we always need to be careful which London we're referring to. It's not as big as the UK London, but oh well, we'll make do. All right, so let's get started. Today we're going to be talking about 7 mistakes that PMs make when trying to land 100 to 300k PM roles. By the way, as we go along, if you have questions, just put them in the chat. I'll try to get to the questions towards the end. All right. So I'm gonna set the scene now, and then we can just go ahead and cover. I actually have 9 mistakes, and if time permits, I will try to cover all of them. But otherwise, I'll try to get to 7. Okay. So many PMs are very good at what they do. Like when it comes to experience, executing on strategy. Like that's what we do. But many are not as good or don't have the job search skill, right? And it's very understandable. I mean, like you search for a job maybe once every 3 years, but you are a PM almost every single day, right? So you're not expected to be a professional job searcher, seeker. Okay, so we speak to PMs maybe about 4 to 5 PMs almost every day. We also help, a lot of PMs land high-paying PM roles, and there are common mistakes that we see again and again, right? So I'm hoping that in this session today, I'll go over some of the common ones and try to maybe dispel some of them are misconceptions, some of them are mistakes. I'll try to dispel many of that, and give you examples and stories as well. And yeah, if you have any questions, if you want me to delve further into anything, just let me know in the chat. All right, I'm gonna give as much as I can in this time period. Okay, so and these are not necessarily arranged in any particular order. I'm just starting, but I have them written down here. So the first mistake or misconception that people make is believing that they've been out of the job market for too long, and they feel like they can't really quite get a PM job or come back into the market, right? And this is actually very common. And a lot of people have very legitimate reasons for being outside of the job market, for having a career gap, right? It could be maybe you needed to take a break, you were in a toxic environment and you just needed to take a break, or maybe you were laid off, right? Or you're traveling, you're relocating to another, you're immigrating, relocating to another location, what have you. But we've seen time and time again, and we've helped lots of people overcome this obstacle. So I'm not gonna lie, like there is a bias, and I think it's a very rubbish, nonsensical bias against people that have career gaps, but there is a way to overcome it, right? So I want to acknowledge that the bias is there, but it is not really an obstacle to getting a job. Okay, and one analogy that I like to use is like, many of you know Gordon Ramsay, for example, right? So Gordon Ramsay is this famous chef. If Gordon Ramsay said, okay, I want to take a 2-year break, after he comes back and Gordon Ramsay says, all right, I want to invite me to your kitchen and I want to cook you something, like we will gladly accept Gordon Ramsay, because the skill he has built is there. So a lot of us, we've built skills that don't just go away because we've been out of the job market. Another example is, a doctor went on maternity leave, right? And then she comes back. Like you're not gonna say, oh, you were away for 9 months or what, 1 year, so now you can really practice. So the career gap, like I think a lot of it starts with the belief. So I've seen many PMs, feel that, okay, they've been out of the job for a while, and that belief sort of prevents them and really affects their confidence, right? So what really helps is being able to position yourself properly for the job market, right? And I'm going to come back to this theme again and again. Positioning is key in this job market, especially in this job market where there's AI and a lot of that. Yeah. So one example is, one of somebody that I worked with, and he was out of the job market for 2 years because he needed to care for a family member that was ill, right? So he was out of the job market for 2 years, and on top of that, he's also a granddad, right? So he was dealing with the ageism bias as well. So he had the career gap bias and the ageism bias, right? So when we started working together, what we did is that, okay, we understood his background. Like, okay, what are you good at? What industries do you really what industries do you have experience in? How do we now position your experience, your skills for this particular job market? And then, we did that. And in 5 weeks, he was able to land a higher paying PM role at the next level, right? So even though he had 2 weeks, he didn't take a step back in his career. Actually, he took a leap forward, right? And there are many examples like this. People relocating. Also, somebody right now in that we're working with, and it was out of the market for 14 months. And before that, like he even dabbled into real estate, right? And now with positioning, he's actually getting interviews, right? So this is just to say, like, if you're going through, if you have a career gap, like don't let that discourage you. It is a bias, but it can be overcome with proper positioning. Now, you might be thinking, okay, so how do we now do proper positioning? And I'll be talking about this, again and again. This is going to be a common theme because like this is key in this AI insane job market. Now, the person that usually gets the job is the person that can show that they can deliver the highest ROI. A job is nothing but an investment. So a company has a problem that they want to go away, and they have the money to make that problem go away. $200,000, $300,000. If you can show them that, or if you can convince them that you will be the best investment, you normally will get the job, right? So this is where positioning really comes in to play. All right. And we're going to be talking about that more, as we go along, like, positioning and how we do that. Now, so that's the first mistake that many people make, is just believing that the career gap really prevents them from competing effectively in this job market. All right. Mistake number 2. Now, many people, the second common mistake that we see is many people believing that they just need to fix one thing in their job search. Like, if only I can just get a better resume, I will be, my job search will be a lot easier. Or if I can just, maybe just fix my LinkedIn, so like that one thing. And what we've seen is that, like, what tends to work in this job market is it's a strategy, right? So it's not just resume or just interviews or just LinkedIn. It's a combination of different things. All right. And the analogy that I like to use here, it's kind of like if you are training for a marathon and you know that the marathon is coming, but the only thing that you're working on is just on your biceps. Like, you're just working on your biceps. Like, so you're going to have big arms, but you're not going to be able to go the distance, right? So when it comes to the job search, especially in this very competitive, crazy market, you want a complete strategy. All right. And at a high level, the strategy that we see work, there's a 5 to 6 step process. So number 1 is clarity, like just being clear on the type of roles that you're targeting, being clear on your experience, your background, and then just being clear on where that connection point is between what you can offer and what the market is demanding, right? So number 1 is clarity. Number 2 is positioning. Right. Again, I told you we're going to be coming back to positioning again and again. Right. So being able to position yourself for what the market wants, being able to position yourself. So, and there's several levels to positioning. So there's positioning in general, and then there's now positioning at the more tactical level. Like, how do you position yourself for each job? Right. And then there's, when you now get the interview, how do you position yourself in the interview? Right. There's how do you portray and position yourself on LinkedIn? Your personal brand. What kind of story? What's your career narrative? So there are all these things when it comes to positioning. And if you have any questions, just let me know on that. And like it's a really big topic, and I'm happy to delve into it. So there's clarity, there's positioning, and you can also say targeting. Maybe positioning and targeting are kind of related. And then there is now networking, right? Because many jobs are actually hidden, and you would not see many jobs online. Actually, they say most jobs are actually hidden. So networking is key, and it's not just networking for the sake of networking. Like, there's a way to do networking that's strategic, and where you're actually reaching decision makers, right? So there's networking. That's step 3, and then there's interviewing, and then there's negotiation, so that you can actually get the compensation that you deserve, right? So this is the strategy at the high level: clarity, positioning, networking, interviewing, and negotiations. And it is this complete strategy that we're seeing that's working in this job search market. All right. So mistake number 2, again, it is believing that you just need to fix one thing. A lot of times what you need to do is actually sort of, you need to have a multi what's the word now, multi-step approach, multi-pronged. The right words are not coming to me, but it's not just I just need a better resume, right? We see this a lot of people like, just help me with a good resume. And like a lot of times it's not just the resume, and right now resumes are becoming identical. Like, I mean, AI, everybody is boosting efficiency with their resume. So you wanna attack the job market from multiple angles. All right. Okay, so that's mistake number 2. Now let's move on to, again, if you have any questions, just leave them in the chat and we'll try to get to them. All right, let's get to mistake number 3. This is also a common one. Now, believing that you just need another certification and that's what you need to get a job. Now, this might be controversial. I don't believe that you need a PMP to get a PM job. I have gotten PM jobs without a PMP. Several people that I know have gotten, jobs without a PMP. Not saying the PMP is bad, but what I tend to see is that many people, when they're not getting a job, or even before they try to search for a job, they think that, all right, the first thing that I need to do is just get my PMP. And when I get my PMP, then things will open up for me. And then I see people go get the PMP and then they come back and they're back at square one. They're still struggling to land a role, right? There are lots of PMPs right now that are looking, right? So, substitute PMP with any other certification, PMP, MBA, or education, what have you. So this is a big mistake. Now, what a lot of people are actually missing is a job search strategy, right? So if your job search is not working as it should, or maybe you're applying and not getting interviews, and there are many people in this category, like they're doing lots of applications, they're not getting any interviews at all. As long as you have the experience, what is wrong is probably you are not positioning yourself properly, right? So the mistake is that many people default to, the reason I'm not getting interviews is because I don't have a PMP, or I'm not, I don't have the certifications or the abbreviations, so that's why they're not calling me. But a lot of times what's happening is that they are not positioning themselves well. Okay. Now, so that's mistake number 3. And even like in my own situation, so I remember there was a time I was looking for a job, and I was also struggling, but then I was able to like learn how to position myself in such a way that I am answering the main pain points of the company. And long story short, they gave me a job, and then I didn't have my PMP. When I actually entered the company, when I started working for them, they now paid for my PMP, right? So, and a lot of companies have L&D budget. So in my mind, or in my opinion, I think that this should be something that I think this is the better approach. Not saying that, I just want to make sure that I'm not, if you have the bandwidth and the time and the resources to go get a PMP, by all means do that. But do not do that neglecting having a solid job search strategy in this market, right? If you can do both, like you're working your strategy and you're seeing that, okay, you're senior, you're getting interviews, and when you get in interviews, you're getting to the end. If that's working for you, then by all means you can use your extra time to get a PMP. And in this job market, with the right positioning, you can expect to get between a 5 to a 20% conversion rate from applications, right? So that means out of 20 applications, you should expect between 1 to 6 interviews, right? In this job market, I know it's crazy, but with the right positioning, you can still expect to get this rate. So if you're falling short there, then that indicates to me that there needs your positioning needs some more work. Okay, all right. So now mistake number 4. Mistake number 4 is widening your focus too much, right? So when people have been searching for some time, they get frustrated and it's like, okay, I just need a job. And it's very understandable. You have bills, maybe you have your family that you need to support, and or maybe you're just a big part of your identity just is missing, or is you feel like there's just like you should be out there contributing, right? So now you're more desperate, like I just want to get something, and then you're like, I don't care, I can work wherever, right? But that's usually a mistake. Like you don't want to be everything, right? Because the more you widen your focus, the less effective you are, right? It's like you're everything to everybody. And one example is, okay, so my wife and I, when we were doing our wedding, we wanted a comedian to be an MC. So we're looking for a comedian. So we had the choice between, all right, so if hire a comedian who has done this for weddings before, or another comedian that says, okay, you know what, I'm a comedian, I'm also a cook, I can also do the decorations, I can also play the band, so anybody in that situation, most people in that situation, I think, will choose just the comedian, right? So even though the other person can do a lot of things, it's just, I don't know, there's something about it. Or it's like going to a restaurant that does sushi, barbecue, Italian, Indian food, ice cream. Like what are you? Is this a crisis? So usually the more focused you are, the more potent your job search strategy is, right? So one mistake that I see many PMs make is widening their focus too much. So you want to have the right level of focus. You want to have a narrow focus. All right. Now, I think maybe some people might be thinking this now. Now there is a balance to it. So now I'm not now saying, okay, you know what, I'm going to just focus on being a program manager in the quantum computing space, right? That's all I want, right? So that might be too narrow of a focus, right? So if that's what you want and you're willing to maybe you're not really in a hurry to land a role, that's different, right? But if you want to get a job as soon as possible, there should also be a balance, right? You don't want to be extremely narrow. So in that particular example, maybe you might want to position yourself as a technical program manager. So someone who can be sub-niche in the quantum computing space, but you can also fare well in broader tech. You can also fare well maybe in the semiconductor space, or you can fare well in adjacent industries like AI, because a lot of times for us PMs, us program managers, a lot of our skills are very transferable across not only within industries, but even across industries, right? So execution, a lot of times, is execution in different domains, right? So you want to position yourself in such a way where it's like, okay, you're not everything to everyone, but you also don't want to be too niche, right? And one story that comes to mind right now. So there was one of my clients, I was working with her, and she was like, she applied to, I think, about 200 jobs, and she just got one interview, right? So she was frustrated, and she decided, okay, I need some help. Now she had a background in she'd done program management. Actually, the way she lost her job was that she was laid off. She was a director. She got laid off. Now she'd done program management in several spaces, but her latest experience was in the media tech space, right? And so what we did is that we built a master PM resume, and that master PM resume was very PM's focused, but he also had experiences from the different industries, right? And there's a difference between a master resume and a tailored resume. So what we normally do, and what I normally advise people to do, is to have a master. So this master resume is kind of like a bank on inventory of your relevant skills and experience, right? So it can be like 10 pages long, for example, right? So within that master resume, we now saw some media tech positions that opened up, right? So we just quickly generated a tailored resume from the master resume. So the tailored resume is a subset of the master resume, and in the tailored resume, you just emphasize and highlight and pick what is relevant to that role, right? And everything else is discarded. So your tailored resume becomes a 2-page subset of your master resume. All right. So we used the strategy, and in 6 weeks, she got 2 offers, right? So so she became exactly what the media tech companies were looking for. All right. So this is why positioning and focusing is very important. I hope that made sense, right? So you don't want to be everything to everybody, but it's better to be everything to someone as opposed to being everything to everybody. Okay. All right. So that's mistake number 4. Just widen your focus too much. All right. Now, mistake number 5 is doubling down on applications. So this is kind of related to the last one. So another common mistake that we see PMs make is that, okay, I'm not really getting the response that I would like in this job market. Maybe I'm not getting as many interviews. So it's a numbers game, and what I need to do now is double down on applications, right? And apply more. So if I was doing, 20 per week, now I want to do 50 per week, or something like that. And a lot of times that might not necessarily be the right strategy, right? Because you want to make sure that you have because if you're running in the wrong direction, I don't know if this is a good metaphor, but if you're running in the wrong direction and then you run faster, you're not going to arrive at your destination. All right. So you want to make sure that you're aiming for the right direction, and then you can run faster, right? I'm probably mixing my metaphors and stuff, but I think you know what I mean. Yeah. So again, going back to the strategy, the 5-step strategy: clarity, positioning, networking, interviewing, and negotiation. So you want to make sure that you have the right strategy, and then you can now increase horsepower, so to speak. All right. So again, positioning, you want to make sure that you position yourself for the market, like the skills and experience that you're highlighting is what's in demand, right? And also to get more tactical, one of the things that can help you for every job that you're applying to, you want to try to surface and identify the top 5 pain points that job is looking to solve. All right. And AI can easily help you with that. Like, you just take the job description, put it there, like, help me boil this down to the top 5 pain points, and it will do that for you. And then you want to respond to each one of those pain points, right, with a skill that you have, and maybe a highlight for that skill, right? So maybe a typical PM job might have, I don't know, they want somebody that can handle complex programs, right? That's one of the main pain points. Another one could be somebody who's really adept at stakeholder management, right? So these are like some of their top pain points. Another one could be, okay, maybe domain specific, somebody who can handle healthcare, who understands the healthcare domain, or who can execute in the healthcare domain, or somebody who has cloud migration experience. So these are some top pain points that you might see. Now, for each one of those, you want to make sure that you have a response to that. Complex program management, for example, I managed a $50 million program globally with 3,000 stakeholders, and we're able to contribute $500 million to the bottom line, something like that, right? So, and what you're doing here is like you're providing evidence along with results and numbers that buttress your claim, right? And you do this for every pain point that you identify. So for every pain point, you show from your skills and experience how you've solved that problem in the past, because your past is usually an indication of how you're going to be able to perform in the job, right? So this is one way of positioning at a tactical level, at the job level. And then there's also positioning there's positioning all around. There's also positioning in the interview. So in the interview, I usually advise people to go in there just understanding the top 3 pain points of the hiring manager, right? 5 is usually too much. For the interview, you want to do top 3. And basically this is like the top 3 things that has emotional valence. It's like, it's not just challenge, like there's an emotional impact. Like it is frustrating, it's a pain, it's a thorn, it's probably at the back of the manager's mind. And if like this is gone, like you can feel, it's almost like you can feel the manager just breathe a sigh of relief, right? Because we're all emotional beings, and even though we like to think rationally, we make decisions both emotionally and rationally, right? A lot of us make decisions emotionally and then justify it rationally. So once you can identify the top 3 annoyances and frustrations, you speak to that, right? Because like that is where the hiring manager's mind is at. And maybe we can get into this later, but one of the ways to do that in an interview is you really have that at the back of your mind and try to make sure that you come back to that, right? At the beginning, for example, when they say, tell me about yourself, you want to speak to that, how your skills and experience can address the top 3. Why this company? You speak to what you can bring to the table to address the top 3. And sometimes before you even get into the interview, you need to make an educated guess. And that comes from really digesting the job description. And, other times it's also from confirming with the previous interviewers on what the top 3 pain points are, right? And, because the interview is also a fact-finding mission. It's also a discovery session. It's not just you being interrogated. It's also you coming in like a consultant and, trying to understand what their main pain points are and then seeing how you can help them solve it, right? So these are the ways you get to the bottom of that when it comes to pain points, right? So mistake number 5 is doubling down on applications. But before you do that, make sure that you have the right strategy. And again, you should expect between 5 to 20% conversion rate, even in this market, right? So if it is less than that, then you might want to check your positioning and your strategy. Okay. All right. So that's mistake number 5. Mistake number 6, applying and waiting. This is also another common one. So in this job market, if you just apply and wait and hope, there is a good chance that you're wasting your time, right? There are AI applications that can do up to 1,000 applications per day. I think that I don't want to, yeah, maybe I should have mentioned the name because it has like, many of you might even know it, but it has like bad reviews, Actually, I read an article on this AI application, and so the person that used this AI application is an Asian woman. And the AI application, you know how like AI, like I don't know, maybe it's optimized to try to get you through the door. And how you have like this demographic information. It clicked, okay, what's your race? Black, and then it put her as a black person together. So the AI is like lying and just doing it just to try to get through the door. And what ends up happening is that you now end up getting blacklisted by companies because you're spamming them, right? And you don't want to be blacklisted by you don't want to be blacklisted by any company. That just it's not, it can really hurt and damage your career prospects, right? So okay, where were we? Applying and waiting. Yes. So if you apply, there's a good chance that you're wasting your time if you just apply. So what you want to do is that you want to apply and then you want to reach out. You want to reach out to people on the hiring team, right? And so there are a couple of things that I would say. So when it comes to applications, first of all, before you even waste any energy applying, like you want to make sure that your application is recent. Sorry, you want to make sure that the job posting is recent. Before I used to say, make sure, the job is 7 days old or less. But like this was maybe 2 years ago, 3 years ago. But now the job market is insane. There are lots of people that have been laid off, lots of very qualified people. There are lots of people that are senior that are willing to take a step down. Like, I know somebody was at the director level and they're like, I just need a project coordinator job. Like, I just need it. So you're competing with these people that are above your level that are willing to come down, right? So it's really a very competitive job market. So you can't just rely on your applications themselves. Nobody has gotten a job by just their resume. A resume will not get you the job. A resume will get you through the door, right? But in this market, it's very difficult for that to even happen. Just applying and then waiting and hoping. So what you want to do is that you want to, I think I'm jumping ahead of myself. So first of all, you want to apply to jobs that are very recent. So before I used to say 7 days or less, now ideally 24 hours or less, maybe 48 hours or less, right? When the job comes out, you apply, and then when you apply, remember the positioning, top 5 pain points with evidence, right? And let that be emphasized, throughout your resume. And then you apply, and then once you apply, that's a good. So Jennifer raised a good question. I was gonna speak about that. So you want to reach out to the hiring team, and a lot of times the hiring team is not listed, right? So sometimes it's listed on LinkedIn. So now the question is, how do you now find them? Okay. So there are several ways. Now you can go on LinkedIn and you can research, right? You can guess, or you can make educated guesses. Like, okay, if this is a project manager role, so maybe the person above might be a PMO head, director of PMO, a program manager. If this is a project coordinator role, then the person above might be a project manager. Or if this is a program manager, maybe the person is, this role is program manager, I don't know, platform. You might be reporting directly to VP, right? Or if this is a chief of staff role, you might be reporting directly to an SVP or the CEO, right? So one way is to scour through LinkedIn and to guess. Another thing that you can also do is to put the job description in your favorite AI tool and ask it, to give you possible ideas on who the hiring manager will be. Okay, that's one thing that you can do as well. Another thing that you can do is you can go on, there's this website called apollo.io, and it's a database of the corporate world, so to speak. So you can find almost anybody in Apollo. CEOs, VPs, directors, project managers, almost everybody, and you would find them. And a lot of times you would actually see their LinkedIn profile, their email addresses, their titles, their roles, the company, how large the company is. So it is also a good source. And there are also other tools there. Like there's some tools out there, I think like Hunter. And by the way, I mean, I'm not affiliated with any of these tools. So this is not a paid thing. Hunter, and then, I think it has like maybe a Chrome extension. You can go and then, if you're on the person's LinkedIn profile, you can actually capture their work email. Okay, so this is something that you can do. Now, one thing that I also recommend is reaching out to multiple people per application. I normally recommend doing 3 to 4 people per application. The recruiter, the hiring manager, a pair, and somebody above the hiring manager for every application. Right? And this just increases the chance that you're going to hear back. Right? Now, a lot of people just send messages to recruiters. Recruiters are so overwhelmed. I don't know if you remember, but after COVID, there was this, a lot of companies were hiring like crazy. And then there was a correction where they were letting a lot of people go. The first people that were let go of were the HR teams. Like, so now many recruiters are like, they're overwhelmed. They're doing like the work of so many people. And then on top of that, now AI came out. So it's many of them are overwhelmed, and what we've seen is that you will get a better response rate from other people and not necessarily recruiters, but you can still reach out to them, right? And also, the decision makers are not the recruiters, right? Recruiters are important, but the person who's going to make the decision on you is, the hiring manager, somebody above your hiring manager. So you wanna also make sure that you reach out to those people as well, right? And if you don't hear back, there's a good chance that you're not going to hear back. If you don't hear back, you follow up, right? And it's up to you if you want to do a second follow up. But you want to do this, like, almost put this into a, we're PMs, we can execute, like, put this into a workflow, like a process. One application, like before you apply, you make sure that it's recent, 48 hours or less. You tailor, you position yourself where you're attacking and you're answering the top 5 pain points with data from your experience. So your resume is speaking directly to the hiring manager's pain point. After you apply, you reach out to the recruiter, the hiring manager, somebody in leadership, a pair, right? If you don't hear back, you follow up in 3 business days. If you don't hear back, you follow up again in 3 business days. And then if you don't hear back, that's it, you move on. When you do this, right, and when I'm talking about like the emails that you're also sending to all these people, of course, you want to make sure that it's not like a, you don't want to make it like a just copy and paste. You want to make sure that it makes sense, that it's going to land in their inbox, and you're speaking to them. So maybe the email for the recruiter is going to be different from the one for the hiring manager, because like they have different priorities. The recruiter doesn't want to look bad in front of the hiring manager. They want to make sure that they forward people along that will not make them look bad, right? And that are risk-free. The hiring manager, on the other hand, wants to hire somebody who's going to help them, like, just solve their problem, right? And get along with the team. Somebody above the hiring manager might have different, maybe they're thinking more at a more strategic level than a hiring manager. And then the pair want somebody who they're going to get along with. Like, yeah, please, I need somebody who's going to come in who's good, who's going to not try to outshine me, and who's also going to make us actually look good. Like, so there are different needs and priorities. So you want to speak to people differently. And also another thing to keep in mind is that people internally talk, right? So if you're just doing a copy and paste to everybody, and then because what they're going to do is that they're going to forward your email, like you send it to the hiring manager, and many people will forward your email to the recruiter or to the hiring manager. And then if they see that you just copied and pasted the same thing, then yeah, it might not land as nicely. All right. So yeah. So that's the workflow. And just so if you think about this now, let's say you apply to 10 applications per week, on time, tailored, well positioned, and you reach out to 4 people per application. So that is 40 emails. You did a follow-up, 80 emails. You did another follow-up, 120 emails. The chance of you not hearing back from at least one is very low, extremely low. More than likely, you're going to hear back from many of those people. And all it takes is for your resume to land on the desk of the hiring manager. Because, like, remember, they're getting thousands of applications, right? No human being can go through all of that. But what you just need is the decision maker, the right person, just to give your resume a chance, because you're not applying, you're not looking for favors. Like, you can come in there and do the job, right? That's why you apply to a role where you're a match, a 75% match for. Well, maybe I didn't say this, but yes. So not at the beginning, you want to choose a job that you're a 75% match for or above, and you want to apply to a role that has just recently come out, right? So that's where you don't just apply to any role, right? So all you need is you just need a human being's eyeball to just look at your application, right? And with this workflow, there is a good chance out of the application that's tailored on time and 120 emails, there's a good chance that you're gonna hit them. All right. Yeah, and AI can also make this faster as well. I know it might seem like it's overwhelming, like even the follow-up messages, you're not really like it's just a quick follow-up, so it's not like when I say 120 emails, it's not like it might seem overwhelming, but it's it can be made easier. So that's why it's quality over quantity. It's not a matter of I just need more applications. Again, if you're just applying, there's a good chance that you're not going to hear back, right? So you want to make sure that you're positioning yourself all the way through. Okay, so this is mistake number 6. Oof, we have like. By the way, I'm still going to try to get to questions, so please, you can put your questions in the chat. Mistake number 7 is waiting for the right time. Yeah, so we see this a lot. Oh, okay, I'm just going to wait until spring break is over. I'm just going to wait until the summer is over. I'm just going to wait until after Christmas or after New Year, right? So, but one thing that you need to keep in mind is that companies always have problems. Their problems don't disappear seasonally. They don't disappear based on, it's always there. That like customers are pissed off. Maybe a company oversold. They were promised, and now they have to deliver, right? I've been in that situation so many times where it's like, oh, the salespeople are really good, and now it's up to the poor delivery team to deliver the moon. All right. So now the customers are pissed off, and like the company needs to deliver not only to save their, to prevent any reputational damage, but they also need to do that to get revenue. All right. Yeah. So a $300,000 investment, to pay for your benefits and everything, it pales in comparison to what they're gonna get from your work. right? So companies always have problems, or it could be the mergers and acquisitions happen. You know, projects fail, right? So they need somebody, or even sometimes it's just that life happens. Somebody, that was in a position has moved on to another organization, or maybe they left the job market, what have you. So the need is always there. So I would really advise against waiting for the right time. One of my clients that we helped land a role, she landed a PM role at a very reputable company. She got the offer between Christmas and New Year. That week, that dead week between Christmas and that's when she got her offer. So you should always be prepared, right? Not saying, I think this also leads to a good point. Now, I'm not saying burn yourself out. Like, job search burnout is real. You want to make sure that you take care of yourself. I usually advise, having a schedule. It's almost like, maybe work or a part-time job. Like, you have your schedule, you're going to do X number of hours between this time. It's almost like a habit, a routine. And then on weekends, play. Or if you work on if you actually do job search work on the weekends, like whenever the time, like, have the time to play, to engage in hobbies, and to do that. It's very important, because your mindset is also very critical in a job search, right? When you're in the interviewing room, nobody really cares that, oh my goodness, you need to pay your bills. No, they want somebody who's going to show warmth and competence, like that. They're also looking at vibes and all of that, right? So you want to make sure that you take care of yourself. Okay. All right. So I think I've done 7. There's more, but maybe we can go to questions. All right, let's go to questions. All right. Hello, Nimisha from Ottawa, Canada. Hello, Melissa from Northern Virginia. My daughter was born in Virginia, but not Northern Virginia. Hello, Neil from Chicago. Ooh, Maxwell from Germany. Nice. Ayoade from Katy, Texas. Hello. I used to live near Katy. Hello, Sahil from India. Hello, Soala from Nigeria. Hello, LinkedIn user from Arizona. All right. Sahil says, value generation defines how effective you are. So better to be the best in one thing. Yeah. It's usually nice to, you need to be able to show how you can, the value that you bring to the table. Like, that's really what companies want to see. Metrics is key. I agree. Diana, thanks for sharing that. Metrics is key. Metrics is very important. KPIs are very important. One thing that I will also caution against here is I also see people go to the extreme with metrics, and then you start to see metrics that don't make sense, or that just seem like too much fluff. Like, oh, I increased collaboration efficiency by 25%. Sometimes when I see some, I'm like, what does that mean? Like, I've been a PM for a long time. I never really measured collaboration efficiency, right? So, I mean, I'm not saying that this doesn't happen. Yeah, maybe you might be in an environment where it's like there's a way you measure collaboration efficiency. Maybe, okay, you actually engage in a project to quicken decision-making time. Like before, when you would ask for approvals from the VP, it used to take 3 weeks. And after your intervention, now it takes 3 days. Okay, maybe that's a way. But when you do that, you want to make sure that you add the context so that it doesn't look made up, right? Because a lot of times I just, increase collaboration efficiency by 20%. Next one, boosted operational efficiency by 25%. Like, what does that mean, right? And another thing that to keep in mind is that the person that's hiring you more than likely is an expert in your role, right? So the reason why they were promoted, a lot of times why this happens is because they were good at your role and then they got promoted, right? So you can't quite BS that person, right? So that's also something to keep in mind. So metrics are good, they are fundamental, they are absolutely necessary, but we want to make sure that, you know, we are not, yeah, like it's still, what's the word now? You want to make sure that you're not becoming fantastical, if that's the right word. You know, you don't want to, yeah, you don't want to use BS metrics, right? You want to make sure that it's grounded in reality and that like it really sounds very credible. Yeah, that's the word I'm looking for. Yeah, you want to make sure that your metrics are credible. And you know, if it also helps, like add context, you can add percentages. A lot of times when you have a percentage, there's a from and a to. You increase something by this, with like from what to what. Like you increased efficiency is something that we always work on. So if you increase efficiency by X%, like from what to what? From X hours per week to Y hours per week, right? So that just adds a bit more credibility. Okay, so that is that. All right, Jennifer says, reach out and apply. Hiring team is often not listed. Okay, yeah, so I think we responded to that. All right, Nahom says, will securing internal referrals be worth delaying an application past the first day of the job posting? That is a very good question. So I think it depends. So if you know this connection on the inside and you know that this person would come through with the referral, then I would say it might be better to wait, right? But also you also want to time box it, right? You don't want to, because some people might be very busy and your application is not their priority, right? So you might want to maybe give it maybe a day, 2 days, 3 days, I don't know, whatever you deem fit, and then you can go ahead and apply. And the reason is because in some companies, if you want your referrals to matter, you should not apply. Like the referrer should refer you, they should put you in the system and all of that. Otherwise, it's like your referral, you're just going to go through the public the public pool, so to speak, right? So I would say, yeah, if it's a matter of I don't know anybody, I'm gonna try to research and find my way looking for a referral, then no, time is of the essence. You apply, and then you now you can now do the follow-up technique that I told you. You look for the hiring manager, you know, decision makers, peers, and you reach out to them, right? But you want to get your application in on time. Okay. Good question, Nahom. I hope I'm saying your name correctly. All right, Melissa, is Apollo like DB Hoover? I don't know what DB Hoover is. Just looking over. What's DB Hoover? What is DB Hoover? I'm just looking that up right now. Maybe. I don't know. I've never used DB Hoover. But there's Apollo. There's also... the name escapes me right now. The name will come back to me. There's also another one that's kind of like Apollo. Lucia. Yes, Lucia. But I found that Apollo is better in terms of it has more. The database is bigger, and I think the data is of better quality. That's been my experience with Apollo. All right. Thank you for the question. Yeah, MailScoop is also, one. These are all good tools. All right. Wisdom says, hello, Mukhtar. Thank you for the insightful webinar. So the first time attending. Thank you for your compliments. Thank you. I would like to ask, for someone at the entry level who's serious about building a career in project management, what would you say are the most important ways to position themselves to stand out and secure a PM role. I'm currently developing my skills in project coordination, workflow management, and execution. I'm pretty good. Okay, so it's a good question, and there are several things that I would say. One is what I find is many people that say they want entry-level roles in project management. In my experience, many of them already do have project management experience, but they discount the experience, right? A lot of us started managing projects before we were project managers, right? Many of us are accidental project managers, right? So I started managing projects before I knew what the project manager was, before I get in a PMP and all of that. So there are many people that fall into this category. If you fall into this category, what I would highly recommend is that you go look at those experiences and you really describe them in project management language. Like, take the time, really bring those details out and describe them in project management language. Like, use the terms, use to get familiar. If it helps, maybe you can start preparing for your PMP. And the reason I'm saying that is because like the preparation really helps you to start thinking and using methodologies, frameworks, and terminologies, right? Or you can just, if you're not interested in PMP, you can like look at go over some courses, right? And what you would notice a lot of times is that I've actually been managing projects for a long time, right? And then you would have like a lot of projects. You would have several projects under your belt, right? And if that is the case, that you've already been managing projects, but you didn't realize it, then your role in whatever project, your role in the initiatives that you manage was project manager, right? Even if you're not called that. Like I was a software support engineer, and they put me in front of a client, one of our main clients, and I was now like the face, and I was responsible for everything. I was, doing the technical work, but I was also responsible for, making sure that we got to the end and all that. So I was managing a project that I didn't know. Right now, because I didn't have the title, I'm not going to do myself a disservice and say, no, I wasn't managing the project. Right. So, going back, I'm like, okay, this is what I did. We had the different stages. I had to, make sure that people were on the same page, that everybody was aligned with the scope, that I knew what success was, identified the, who the key players were. Every week I was delivering a report. When there were issues, I would solve issues, remove bottlenecks, try to navigate the politics and all of that. And in the end, we delivered the project successfully. I'm not going to say, no, I was a software support engineer. I was a freaking project manager there. And that is very critical experience, right? So that was what I did. And that's how I've been able to like switch from industry. Like I went from energy to healthcare to real estate, tech. So I worked in so many industries because I've been able to look back and package my experience in such a way that it's going to resonate with my next opportunity that I'm targeting, right? So that's one thing that I would say is do not discount, like go back, take a very critical look at your past experience and make sure that you don't already have project management experience, right? Now, so if you do that, like I wouldn't even consider myself entry level. Like if you go back and you see that you've managed projects, and if it's 2 years, 3 years, like you are not entry level. You might not be a senior project manager, but you're not entry level. Now, if it's that I've never done any project management at all, right? And maybe you've been doing project coordinator, like so then you can start targeting roles at that level, right? Because I think you can think of the project management career in several levels. So there is the entry level to junior level. So this is where you have project coordinator, project administrator, junior project manager, assistant project manager. Like you can they sort of fall into that level 1, and then level 2 will be the project manager level, and then level 3 will be maybe what you call the senior project manager or program manager level. And then the level above that can be like director, head of PM or like you have other project managers reporting to you. All right. So that will be my response. I hope I answered your question. Let me know if I didn't. All right. So Jennifer says, how do you know 75% match? I have premium LinkedIn and it tells me high, medium, or low, but not a percentage. Yeah. So one way to do this is just quick rule of thumb. You look at the qualification section, right? So normally they're in bullet points. So, is it 3 out of 5? Is it 4 out of 5? And you also want to use your judgment as well, right? Because some bullet points are stronger than others. Maybe one would be like good communicator, but another one says healthcare experience is a must, right? So if you have good communicator, project management, but you don't have healthcare experience, like you don't say, okay, that's 75% match, right? So quick way is just to look at the qualification section and just do a quick gauge there. Okay. All right. Yes, Eve, the same question. Yeah, the same question. How are you making 75% match? So I think I just answered that. All right, from Maxwell. Hi, Mukhtar. How is it that the job matching rate is around 95%, yet I haven't received a single call? Yeah, so there's several factors. Like this will take a long time to really delve into because there's so many things that go into that interview conversion rate, right? And some of them I've already talked about. Like, you want to apply on time. You want to make sure that you apply to a role that you're a good fit for, and it kind of seems like you're saying you're a 95% match. Also another important thing is you don't want to apply for roles that you're overqualified for, right? You want to make sure that let me take that back. You don't want to position yourself as being overqualified for a role, right? You have a PhD, you've been a director, you've owned businesses and all of that. Like you are like at a high level. If you're applying for a project manager role, like those things don't impress, they actually intimidate, right? So you want to make sure that you position yourself for the right level, right? So 95% rates. So yes, apply on time. Make sure that you tailor your resume or you position yourself properly. But then the follow-ups are very important. Like what we've seen is that for many of the PMs that we work with, if you are just applying, you will not get a response back. Like it's yeah. Like I usually tell my clients that if you're just applying and you don't send an email, you are wasting your time. I know it sucks in this insane market, but yeah, you want to try to always find the hiring manager, the recruiter, a peer, somebody above the hiring manager, and you send them, messages for them. You follow up, and if you don't invite, you follow. And a lot of times, what we see is that most of the responses come from the second follow up. So you can see that this is a multi-step process. First of all, when did it come out? Am I a good match? I position myself. I tailor. I apply. I send the emails. I follow up, and a lot of the responses come from the second follow up, right? So if you stopped anywhere before, along the line before that, like you wouldn't have gotten a response. And a lot of times because they're overwhelmed as well, and they have so many things, right? And a lot of times what we see is that many people, oh, I'm so sorry, thank you for following up. You actually bumped this on my to-do list. I am now forwarding your message. Like we've seen many people, even CEOs, but like, I really appreciate your consistency. I'm forwarding your message to the recruiter. And one thing that's actually kind of neat is that when the hiring manager or somebody above the hiring manager forwards your email to the recruiter, they are bound to take a look, right? Because the stakeholders for the recruiter is management and leadership, right? So that also gives you, it gives a, and I've even seen a situation whereby the CEO or somebody in the C-suite was like, okay, you know what, you might not necessarily be the best fit, but actually I wanna speak to you. And then they had a coffee chat, and that person had now a connection on the inside. And a lot of times, like, this also happens as well. Like, many times you might not get a job in your dream company the first time, right? You might go through the interview and all of that. It's now the second or the third time, right? But what happens is that with the first time, you now have advocates on the inside, right? So in this scenario, one of my clients that I was working with, where he reached out, the C-suite, somebody in the C-suite met with him, like, they were so impressed with this person, so they had like a conversation outside of the not an interview, but then like that person now has a contact on the inside who is in leadership, right? And this happens like more often than you would think. And another story that comes to mind is, one of my clients that just recently landed the job, she reached out to, so she saw this, well, even before she saw the role, she reached out to one of our contacts in the company, right? Remember, so this is also like pre-existing, you've done the work before, now you have an advocate on the inside. So you reach out to this person had been promoted, and now this person had a project manager position, and he's interviewed people and he's not happy with any of them. So he's finding it difficult to actually find people. And this is also very common in this job environment, believe it or not. Like, people are struggling to find candidates. So what she did is that she reached out to him. We encouraged her, okay, like, reach out to your network. And she reached out to him, and it was like, why don't you just come into the office for a chat? And she didn't really know. She just went. She thought that she was having a chat. She had one quote unquote chat. He introduced her to another person in the C-suite, to HR, to somebody, like a pair. So before she knew it, she was having all these chats, and they were actually interviews. She thought she was just going there to have a conversation. So she showed up, and before she knew it, like, she had an offer, and we were able to help her to negotiate. And she actually got, like, a lot of money in the negotiations. But yeah, so the point is, what was the point again? Sorry, I'm losing my train of thought. Yes. So the question was, how is it that you're in 95% match for a role and you're still not getting interviews? So it's a system, right? So there's so many steps along the way. And yeah, so this is what I can say at the high level in general. But then there are also like additional nuances. Sometimes it could be like, what types of roles are you applying to? Is it remote roles? Because those are very competitive. You have a lower conversion rate there. Is it, is it location? Because if you're applying to roles outside of your current location, recruiters will just look at that and, they're like, yeah, I don't want to have to deal with relocation allowances and all of that. So maybe there's the positioning is up there. There could also be incongruencies between your LinkedIn profile and your resume, because 90% of recruiters will go look you up on LinkedIn, right? So there's so many factors, and there's a lot more that I can really get into, but I hope this was helpful. All right. So more questions. Oh, by the way, if you need help landing a 100 to 300K PM role, you can reach out to us. So there should be a link around this video somewhere, or you can just go on my profile and you should be able to book an appointment, a free appointment with us. So somebody on my team will take a look at will understand your challenge, take a look at your profile to see if we can help. If we can help, we will let you know what the next steps are, how we're going to be able to help you. If we can't help, we send you free resources, right? So we still do have some slots available, but yeah, if it's something that you need help with, just feel free to let us know, and it's a free call to you. All right, more questions. Can we recap? Oh, that's a good one. Yeah. Can we recap the 7 mistakes? Yes, that's a good one. Thank you for that. Yes. So number one is believing that you've been out of the market for too long, right? So that's number one. That you have a career gap. That's a mistake. Like thinking that that is going to prevent you from landing your next role. We've seen several people just do that. Like, a career gap. Positioning as positioning is key, and having a strategy. I mentioned the example of somebody that we helped. He was out of the job market for 2 years, and in 5 weeks he landed an offer at the next level. All right. The second mistake is thinking that you just need to fix one thing. I just need to fix my resume. I just need to fix my LinkedIn. Actually, you need a job search strategy: clarity, positioning, targeting, networking, interviewing, and negotiations. Believing that you just need another certification or you just need a PMP. That's number three. And number four, widening your focus too much, right? No, you want to make sure that you're not everything to everybody, but it's better to be everything to one person as opposed to everything to everybody. Okay. Number five is doubling down on applications. If you don't have the right strategy, doubling down on applications is not really gonna help, right? So you want to make sure that you have the correct strategy. Number six is applying and waiting, right? If you apply and you're waiting, you're wasting your time. You need to make sure that you have a networking strategy to reach decision makers. And then number six is waiting for the right time. Sorry, number seven is waiting for the right time. Companies always have problems, so the right time to get started is now. All right. Yeah. So what time is it? Oops, we're already way over time. Okay, let me see. Oh, wow. Okay. Thank you for noting that, Nahum. Yeah, I think so. This question, will ChatGPT calculate the 75%? Yeah, I mean, you can ask ChatGPT to do that. I think you should be able to, but I wouldn't just rely 100% on ChatGPT. Like you can eyeball it, right? And look like, okay, and it's not really like like this is something you just gauge, yeah. So 75% is more like, okay, because there's nobody that's going to be 100% fit for a role. And another thing to keep in mind is that the job description is usually like a wish list, right? So a lot of times hiring managers are not expecting to meet people that will be 100% match. Like I've been hiring people for a while, and you will never find somebody who's 100% match, right? But you want to find somebody who's a very good match, right? So 75% is okay. It's not like a 50-50, it's more than that. And I'm a pretty good fit, for this role. So that's more like it. Yeah. Hope that makes sense. And related to your don't apply whenever overqualified, how can you tell if you're overambitious, even if you successfully match the 75% complexity of the role? There's often a difference between transferable skills and direct experience, especially for career PMs. Okay, so that's a really good question, Eve. So I think you are overqualified for a role when you can know that you can do the role, and maybe you're even above that role, right? Or maybe that was a role that you did like one or two jobs before. Yeah, because in an organization there's several levels, right? So if you're a program manager and then you are applying for a project coordinator role, you are overqualified for the role, right? So that's how I would look at being overqualified, right? And then being overambitious is, I mean, you have the confidence, you can do the role, but you know that, okay, there might be a learning curve, but that's not like, you're not really worried about that, right? So I guess maybe that's ambition. Yeah, I don't know if that helped. Okay, that's the same question. All right. All right. This was fun. Yeah, thank you all for tuning in. And yeah, if I can be of help in any way, let us know. Again, if you need help landing 100 to 300 kpm role in the US and Canada, because right now that's where we focus. In the US and Canada, there should be a link around. So it would take you to a form, and you fill it out, and if you're fit, you'll be able to book a free call with somebody on my team. And then if they see that you're a fit, then we will let you know what the next steps are. Otherwise, we give you lots of free resources to help you with your job search. All right. And if you're watching this on YouTube, subscribe, like it. It's free to you, but it helps us to be discovered by more PMs so that we can serve more people. If you are listening to this on Substack, subscribe. If you're listening to this on Apple or Spotify, do subscribe or share it with somebody who needs it. All right. It's good hanging out. Thank you all so much, and speak to you next week. Take care, y'all.